Hi, I'm Will Smales. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Morrison Co, a global infrastructure manager, and I'm based in New York. At Morrison, we define infrastructure as the assets and businesses that underpin the economic well-being of the communities in which they operate. And that allows us to then think about how this definition allows assets to change over time. So what's infrastructure today may not necessarily be infrastructure in the future. It also means that once you've defined something as falling within the categorization of infrastructure, we can really think about what the risk attached to that specific asset or business is. So a flexible definition is a healthy way to invest because it means that you can think about risk and return. Morrison is a thematic investor, and the themes that we've actually been investing behind for many decades. So if you think about decarbonisation as a theme talked about a lot today, Morrison's first wind farm investment was over 30 years ago. And we deliberately think about themes that are long duration themes, things that are impacting communities and societies over the very long term. And then we find the right access point to that theme, depending on the conditions in the market at the time. Morrison has invested a lot in renewable energy around the world, as well as digital infrastructure. An emerging theme for us, however, is healthcare. We're thinking about the increasing cost burden of health on society of healthcare systems around the world and finding businesses and processes and data-driven ideas that can allow the delivery of services in communities at lower cost and with better health outcomes for patients. We think it is an idea that matters, remembering that Morrison's purpose is to invest wisely in ideas that matter. And we think actually a healthy healthcare system underpins the economic well-being of societies. I think having a global perspective is really important, and then making sure you have very specific regional overlays. And that means having people in the regions who are there to look at investment opportunities, but also a team of advisors and operators in those markets. So at Morrison, we think about our themes globally, but we act very locally on the ground. We're in an environment of higher rates, and as a result, on a relative value basis, we have to adjust our return expectations as infrastructure investors as well. So what that means is that for our lower risk infrastructure investments, today we will be looking at the returns we expect from those investments relative to other options that investors have in the market. So invariably in a higher rate environment, it means that our expectations of returns for lower risk investments do also increase relative to where they were 6 to 12 months ago. And however, it's worth remembering that as infrastructure investors, we invest over the very long term. So even in a lower rate environment, we were underwriting investment cases on lower risk assets, assuming that interest rates would over the long term normalize. So what that means is that our investment pace can remain relatively stable, but we're always thinking about relative value in the immediate time. The mid-market is very interesting for Morrison because there's a deep pool of available investment opportunities. It means that if you have the deep sector knowledge and a big investment team available to review opportunities, you can really pick through and find the right investment opportunities given the market conditions. So we're very active in the mid-market, and you'll see us investing more in that space. Morrison has a listed and an unlisted infrastructure capability, and we think being able to look across both sectors is really important. Our listed markets tell us a lot about valuations that private markets should understand. And similarly, sometimes listed markets are not necessarily thinking about the long term, which is what private markets are very good at doing. So whilst the sector thematics are common across both listed and unlisted, often the valuation outcomes can be quite different at a point of time, and often there is relative value trade-offs. So we think it's very important for an infrastructure investment manager to have capability in both, and we do here at Morrison.